Hello, everyone. I'm going to start with our diagnostics webinar for June 27th, 2019. This is a post-GE America's User Group Conference in 2019 that was held 2 weeks ago in Bellevue, Washington. And we're going to be doing an awful lot of follow-up based on the discussions that we had during the conference there. So welcome, everyone. So first thing I'm going to do is a little bit about the program, introduction about the panelists and about the Zoom software, and then an agenda, so an introduction from myself, presentation from Swami, a question and answer session that will be conducted together with Swami and myself, and then some closing comments. Good, so quick introduction, myself, I'm responsible for the commercial side for diagnostics. We have Swami, who's our pre-sales guy, and he's going to be the one doing the presentation today. Gert Weissman is our product manager, and Koen Porteners is our solutions architect. Good, a little bit about the Zoom software. This is not an interactive session, so we'll be doing some presenting, be covering a number of topics. But we don't want to make this completely non-interactive, and as such, in the Zoom software, you have a chat mechanism. And in that chat mechanism, if you click on that, you can actually type in your questions. So as we're going through the presentation, you're more than welcome to type in your questions. And what we'll do is we'll take them up during the question and answer session. So don't be afraid to type. All the questions will get answered. Good. So at the GE America's User Group Conference this year, I had presented twice about diagnostics, once in the oil and gas and once in the electric track. Both were well attended, was great to see, and all at different times. So out of those discussions came a lot of questions. We'll get to part of those in a sec. We also had a user gathering. It was our first initial user gathering. Was held on Monday evening, was great, very informal, wonderful discussions with customers and potential customers and ourselves about what diagnostics can do for any particular utility. And of course, we were at booth C3 during the conference. It was a very busy conference and it was a great conference. To that end, during the user conference, we actually handed out a couple of awards. One was to Cox Communications as a valued customer, doing some wonderful things, and to Zayo Communications, who are also doing some wonderful things with Zayo, with diagnostics. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask us about what they're doing. We do try to open up and be very transparent about the activities that they're doing. Good. So during the conference, we had a lot of questions. There was an awful lot of discussion, but the most frequently asked questions were the following: replay user clicks and tracebacks, indexes, job server issues, auditing the CT20, logging versus analyzing, performance, migration. And there were many other questions. So if you do have other questions, please don't hesitate to ask them in the chat session. Good. Now we get to the presentation piece for Swami. Swami, I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. I'm going to share my screen here. Okay. So hello everyone, my name is Swami and welcome to the webinar. So as John mentioned, we met a lot of you people during the summit. We had really good exchange of ideas. A lot of questions got asked. So what we did is we made a note of those queries. We came back home, grouped those queries. And as part of this webinar, I would be answering those queries. So in case I do miss out on any of your queries, you can ask them during the Q&A session, or you can ask them directly by sending us an email, send me an email, send John an email, and we would be glad to reach out to you personally and explain it over a call, over an email, just any way you want. So with that, let's get into the webinar. I usually start my webinar by giving a quick introduction of what diagnostics is, what it does, how it can help you to enhance the small world, the user experience of small world. So what diagnostics is, it's essentially a big data based performance monitoring tool, which we built exclusively for small world customers. So it allows customers to track everything which is happening inside, which their users do in small world. And what diagnostics does is it gathers this information, it processes it, this huge chunks of information, it processes it, and it makes it available to the administrator, the end user, in the form of this easy to understand dashboards. So administrators, they can use this dashboards to identify bottlenecks which are there in their small world system. So diagnostics essentially helps them to make informed decisions on which aspects of small world they need to focus their maintenance efforts on. Right. So, and the best part is that it does all this without having any impact on the user experience. Let me explain how exactly it does that. It's very, very simple. So imagine, I will do this using a use case, okay, a simple use case. Imagine there is a user, he has a small world open, he has an editor, an empty editor. He is going to click on the get button, and then once the editor is populated, he's going to click on the go to button. So what happens is, as soon as he clicks on the get button, there are two events which gets generated. The first is the get button being clicked, and the second is the query which got executed in the backend in order to populate the editor. So both these events, they are placed in a queue, and diagnostics waits for the user to complete his action before sending it out to processing. It just waits. So as soon as the action is completed, the editor is populated, and just before the user is going to click on the go to button, what diagnostics does is it senses this millisecond of idle time in the system, and it immediately sends the data out which it had stored in the queue. It sends it out for processing. So that is essentially how diagnostics is able to track everything that a user does in small world in real time without having any impact on the user experience. So with that, let's get into the questions that we got. The first one. Okay. So what's the first one? The first one that we got, the most commonly asked question, that was whether diagnostics can help administrators recreate a particular scenario. Can it help them recreate the exact steps that the user followed before he got a traceback? Maybe before there was a data loss that happened in his design, just about anything, any event, can it help recreate those steps? So before I get to what diagnostics can do, let me tell you how it is done traditionally, how Small World helps to recreate these steps. So it does that using the system logs. But use of system logs have essentially two primary problems. So the first one is that the logs are quite tedious to go through. They are essentially lines and lines of information which the administrators have to mine through in order to get to the information that they are looking for. The second problem is that logs, they only capture what the administrators tells them to capture. So if an administrator wants to capture some additional information, what they need to do is they need to reconfigure the logging mechanism, the logging module, and then hope that this same event happens in the future so that they can go back to the log file and analyze what exactly happened with the new information. But with diagnostics, we do things a bit differently. Since diagnostics is tracking, as I mentioned, it tracks everything that the user does, we rarely have to configure it to capture information that we need in order to do the root cause analysis. So with diagnostics, any information that the administrators seek in order to recreate an event, it's already there and it's available in a click of a button. Let me show you how. We have a dashboard by the name session capture summary. I'll take you right to it. And here it is. So this is a very simple dashboard, and it acts as a perfect starting point for any scenario specific analysis. So it has a bunch of fields here, as you can see, which you can use to filter it out. You can filter by location, by department, by machines if you want, and you also can specify a particular time interval that you're interested in. So I'm not going to not going to use this for this particular webinar. I'm going to dive directly into this part. So what you see here is basically a calendar with the dates which are color coded. It's simple. The darker the color, the more the activity, the more users have logged in on that particular session. So if I hover over here, you see the value as 5. This is a lighter color. If I hover over here, it's a darker color. So let me just click on, let's say, this one. So immediately, as soon as I click on this, you see that this two charts starts to get populated. So I'm going to click on this, and it's waiting. Give it just 1 minute, or let me do this. And it's back. Yes, it's back. Okay. Okay. Sorry for that minor glitch. Imagine it never happened. Okay, so let's rewind a bit. What I was saying is, so this is the dashboard that we have. This is a perfect starting point for anyone to do their analysis. Dates are color coded. Darker means more activity, lighter means less activity. And I'm going to click on this. And immediately as I do that, you can see now the sessions are getting populated right here. Then once I'm done with this, I select the one that I'm interested in, the one where the user got the traceback. Click on that. It opens up a new session altogether, which is going to give me details on what exactly happened, what exactly the user did as part of his session. Everything is pre-populated. You don't have to worry about it. So you see, I see there is a lot of activity happening here. Not going to worry about it. Another click here, and now we have what we were looking for, the replay, the actual replay user click by click diagnostics. Whatever it has tracked, we will be able to see this. Okay, so this is the replay user click, the dashboard that essentially helps administrators to recreate everything. So what you can see here is we have a time chart which tells you when the activity took place. It's just a minimal activity I see here. If I want to zoom in, I just drag my mouse. I zoom in here. I drag my mouse. You can zoom in to any timeline that you want. Say it happened at 12 in the morning. Just zoom into 12 in the morning. If you want to reset it, click on this, and it will be reset. But more importantly, this is the exact sequence of actions that the user took immediately once he logged into the system. So as you can see, what he has done is he has opened up the version management for this particular data set, and then he has gone to the DM top. He clicked on the top, went back DM top, DM top, tried to make it writable, closed the session, that's the X, he closed the version management, and immediately he got a traceback. He has clicked on no traceback, so nothing got captured in the Emacs either. So then he goes to the application, selects something, selects on the summary tab, gets another traceback. This time around, he clicks on show traceback. So he would have it on the Emacs, might actually go ahead and share it with you. Again, selects a couple of things, again, another traceback, no, and then goes on to select the object relationship fields, another traceback, probably gets frustrated at this point of time and exits the system. So tomorrow, say tomorrow, if I am the technical guy and Koon comes to me, Koon is the guy who, by the way, Koon is the guy who has this session. the username is Kuhn. So let's say he was the one who got this, right? And tomorrow when he comes to me and asks what exactly happened, he doesn't have to explain to me what is the session, what exactly he did. He does not have to share the trace back. I have all that all the information that I need in order to recreate it. He just needs to tell me that it happened, and I would be able to look at diagnostics, recreate everything, and be able to understand why exactly that particular error happened. That's the replay user click. So for the first question that was asked, which is, can diagnostics help recreate a user scenario? The answer is yes. You don't have to mine through all the boring text files, the log files. There is no configuration, there is nothing. Everything is done out of the box, and everything that the administrators need in order to recreate a scenario is made available on a simple click of a button. Okay, so let's get on to the next query. Okay, so the next query that we got asked a lot was whether diagnostics can help clients identify fields which needs to be indexed in order to improve the performance of diagnostics, can improve the performance of small world, sorry. So once again, the answer is yes, we can do that, and we have a dashboard dedicated exclusively for that, and we call it the DS cost. Let me take you once again to that. These are the list of all the dashboards that we have. We have more dashboards here. We have more dashboards here. Don't have to worry about it. I'm going to take you to this. This is the one that we are interested in for the indexing query. So this dashboard we built exclusively to tell administrators, especially the database administrators, to tell them which part of the database needs to be indexed, which fields in the database needs to be indexed. So just like the last one, it is a very, very simplistic dashboard. Nothing gets populated till you fill this up. So just select all time. I'm not going to work on all this. I'm just going to click on all time, and immediately, as soon as I do this, you can see all this dashboard, all these charts starts to get populated. And this is coming directly from this information. Any information that I put in is translated into these dashboards. Just a click. So the first chart that you see here tells you which are the collections that the users spend most of their time on. I see that, for example, this one, there is a job which is getting, which the users are using a lot, or the system is using a lot. Down here, we have the indexed versus non-indexed for each collection, for each data set. And all the way down here is what we are interested in. So what this does is it shows, this chart is showing exclusively the non-index queries which the users use a lot and which takes a lot of time to execute. So right here, if you can see, this is still populating, but even with that limited information, it's populating gigabytes of data, because I've just essentially put it to all time here. That's around 4 or 5 years of data that is being processed at a relatively very fast rate. But anyway, coming back to this, so we see here that we have this is the collection, this is the data set name, and this are the fields that are being used to trigger the query. And this field right here tells me how much time it takes on an average, how much time is the user spending executing these queries. So what administrators can do is they can use this information. They can identify the top queries. This will show you the top 10 queries. So you don't have to mine through it further. You just look at the top 10 queries. You know immediately that these are the ones that you need to address. You take that back, you know which data set, you know which collection, you know which fields. Just take that back with you and just, to add your index. But the thing is, even if we do give that information, even if say you don't have diagnostics, you identify the fields which needs to be indexed, there is still one thing that needs to be added to that process, the process of indexing. So that process is that you have to justify, or not you, the database administrators, they have to justify their decision, because adding an index is not as simple as just taking a field and just adding an index or a change to the custom code, for example. It means downtime. It means the database is going to grow faster. It involves planning. There are users which have to be intimated and so on. So in order to do all this, in order for all this to happen, database administrators have to justify why adding an index to a particular field, what value it will bring to the overall user experience. So the way diagnostics helps in order to answer this question is that it brings everything to all the things that is being tracked. It is bringing everything into a single platform. So what happens with diagnostics is, see, diagnostics is tracking everything. It's tracking the queries, it's tracking the database transaction, the web services, the data conflicts, just about everything that is happening inside Small World. And because it is doing all that, once you identify the query which is taking a lot of time, you can also answer questions such as, if this field, how many users are actually using this field for querying? Or even more interesting, you can answer questions such as, if I add an index to this field, the performance of which of my Small World tools will be better, or which of my web services which use this query in the backend, which of my web services, which of my integration will run faster. You can answer those queries using diagnostics. So for the second question that we got asked, can diagnostics help with the indexing? The answer is, it can not only help you with the indexing of the fields by identifying them, but it can also help you quantify the business impact of adding that particular index. So on to the next one, the next question that we got. Okay, so the next question that we got asked was whether diagnostics can help clients improve the performance of their short transaction server, their job server, and so on. So we have a dashboard for that, but before I go into that, I would like to make a really small kind of a tech talk. Okay, so well, the thing is, this is kind of a tricky question because it involves monitoring something that is not essentially happening inside Small World, but diagnostics can still do it. So the way it happens is this. So before I get into that, this is what happens inside Small World, especially Small World 5 with Java. So what happens is, when the user, as they keep on working on their system, the internal memory, there is something called an internal memory, which is used in order to run the applications and so on. So what happens is, the internal memory keeps on increasing, and after it hits a particular threshold, what Java does is it triggers something called a garbage collection. So what garbage collection, what garbage collection is meant to do is, it's meant to free up the memory so that any new processes that the user triggers might have space in order to execute the functions that they are configured to execute. So in the absence of garbage collection, or if the garbage collection is slow or it fails, what happens is that the whole session crashes, because eventually the memory is going to hit the maximum capacity that is there, and then the system crashes without warning. So what we do with diagnostics is, we have something called the JVM monitor, the JVM statistics, which is your Java virtual machine statistics. I'm going to take you through that. Just give it a minute. So by the time it loads, what essentially it does is, it tracks all the garbage collection, or basically, let's not call it garbage. It's basically how your internal memory, how it is being freed up, how much of it is being occupied at any given point of time. So I'm going to click on, let's say, this one. I'm going to click on a session here. Let's see. Okay. say, okay, 1, 5. Oh, sorry. Let's see. Let's take any one of these sessions. So as soon as I do this, it is starting to populate all these dashboards that we have. So we are not interested. All these dashboards are giving out different information, but for this particular webinar, I'm going to focus on this particular one. So as you can see, there are different timelines associated with this. I'm going to click on, say, any one of them. Again, drag your mouse, as simple as that. It zooms in to that level. So here you have different statistics here. So this one is the maximum capacity of your internal storage. This is your maximum capacity that the functions can use. This is the maximum internal memory. So, and this one over here is the one that is being used. So essentially what happens is, for this session it seems to be okay, but imagine if for the sessions which crashes, this particular used memory would be somewhere over here, or it would have either touched or it would be very close to the maximum capacity. And as it gets closer and closer, the user sessions, they start to experience slower execution times, and eventually as it hits the maximum capacity, the session crashes. So with diagnostics, what we can do is, one is you can use this dashboard directly. Once, say, a session has crashed, you can come over here and see whether it was due to the memory leak, as we call it. Or even better, what you can do is you can configure diagnostics to send out emails in real time to either your technical support team or to your end users, to informing them, say, if it hits, say, around 50%, any threshold, if the used capacity is around 50%, you can send out an email to your to anyone you want. It can be technical support or a user, informing them that they need to restart their session, or else their session is bound to crash. And you can do this in real time. I say that we can do this because we have actually done it for a client. So they had the exact same problem. User sessions used to crash without any information. They used to lose a lot of work. Just like that, they got diagnostics. We configured it to send out emails, and we saved a lot of users, a lot of time of lot of users from losing the jobs that they have been doing the whole day. So you can configure diagnostics to do that. Also, if you are interested particularly on job manager, for example, right, if it was either job server or short transaction, if you are interested in job manager, the jobs which are getting failed a lot, we also have a dashboard for that. I don't have it right now. We developed it for one of our clients, but I have managed to take a snapshot, and this is more or less how it looks like. So we have three different before that, their problem was that they had a business process. They had a lot of business processes, and some of them were running slow. They wanted to identify which of them they need to fix and what exactly they need to fix. So we started tracking three of their functions, three of their products. One was the design manager, one was the job manager, and the third one was the quality manager. So what you see here is, this one is the chart that we got from the design manager. This one was from job manager, and this one again was from design manager. So if I zoom in to what we actually conveyed, the end result was this. So the end result, what we saw was new connection, one of one of the most important business processes was getting a lot of errors. It was second most error affected business process. And in that, we saw that these two jobs, the one related to something called generate PDF and the submission of BOQ, this took a lot of time. This had a lot of errors. And these errors were usually being reported when the data was being posted or when the approval was being requested. So using that, we had two insights. The first one was they need to fix their new connection. And to fix the new connection, they need to focus on the jobs of generating PDF and submission of BOQ. and these jobs were related to these particular states. So if they made this better, these two states will be much more efficient, will run much more smoothly. So for the third question that we had for the job server or the short transaction server, what diagnostics can do, you can have it implemented. It can send out emails. You can stop a session from crashing if a session did crash. Because it's tracking everything, you can cross-reference the data to understand what exactly happened. You can send out emails intimating your users, or if you're interested in what are the jobs that you need to fix, you can do that as well. So essentially, what in a nutshell, diagnostics has something for everyone. It can be your database administrator, it can be your technical support personnel, data manager, just about anyone. We have diagnostics has information that they need in order to do their job better. So it doesn't matter who it is, diagnostics has something to make the user, to help them make the end user's experience better. So with that, I come to the end of my webinar. I hope you found that helpful, and I hope you would look forward to working with one of your A teams. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Swami. Great. So let me do a quick share. Yes. So that was the presentation portion of the webinar. It was really good, Swami. Thank you. We now get to the question and answer session. So let me quickly pull up the questions. We've already got a question. This one might take me a little while to read, so give me a chance. Recently, we had a user who was experiencing very poor performance after dismissing a pop-up dialog. Despite our best efforts, we could not locate the cause of the slowness and could not reproduce on any other machine. Eventually, a reboot of his computer fixed the problem. How would such a problem appear to diagnostics? What would we have seen if we had tried to use diagnostics to diagnose the issue, considering this seems to have been an operating system issue? So let's do that question first.
Okay. So, okay, I'm kind of reading through this. Give me some time. Okay, can diagnostics, okay. Oh, we have a couple of questions. Oh, Scott has been busy. Okay, so let's do the first one first. Okay, eventually reboot his system. The problem seemed to appear again. Yeah, this is something that we do a lot. What happens is, I don't know whether this was the one-off issue or whether it was being whether other users have faced it as well. So for one of our clients, I think what the client that we were talking about, they thought it was something similar, the one where the the sessions used to crash. But then with diagnostics, we understood that it was a JVM issue. Similarly for this, it's usually related to a series of clicks or series of steps that the user took. So it can be, for example, export to an Excel, which I have also faced. Export to an Excel throws a pop-up. It is system-driven pop-up, something belonging to the Excel, but they are never able to recreate it in Small World because it doesn't belong in Small World. They get that and it never goes away. They have to restart the whole session. So usually from my experience, I have seen that if you are able to recreate whatever steps that the user took, say using replay user click, for example, you will be able to, most of the time you are able to recreate what the error that he got. And once you do that, then fixing of the problem becomes that much easier.
Yeah, and I think it's important to mention that you'd want to have actually a duplicate situation in terms of hardware, in terms of software, in terms of all the activities that were going on. So, but in fact, we can find an awful lot in the Small World session, so we can see exactly where it starts to slow down and potentially hang up. Good. So the next portion of the question is, can diagnostics be used to persist data from a custom developed magic report and display that data in dashboards?
Indeed, yes, yes, we can. For most of the clients that we work with, they do request how to. They need to understand how to make their custom reports or custom functions. How they want to make that better. So what happens with diagnostics is, let me see if I can pull that up real quick. We have something called the inheritance hierarchy. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to click on this again. So this is something that we call as the hierarchy inspector. So what basically this does is, say whenever you trigger a method, right, there are list of other methods which gets triggered in the backend. So you trigger method A, then it goes to method B, C, D, E, and it comes back to method A. So with hierarchy inspector, what you can do is, what it does is, it helps you identify which part of these sub methods, which of them are taking a lot of time. And then you can focus. You don't have to focus on method A. You can go directly to one of these sub methods, or a method which is sub method to this method. You can go directly to that method and fix and see, identify why it is taking so much time, and fix that one method. And that usually fixes, the entire process. Let me see if I can pull up an example here. uh, I need something here. I'm going to click on this. Okay, let's see if this can pull it up. So you have different charts here. One is the details of the action, how much time it took, whether any conditions were raised, and so on. Execution of the action, how much time it took. Even okay, we have something. We have something. We have something. Okay, in case this doesn't load, John, I believe we have Scott's email ID, right? I
Yeah.
can send. Yeah, maybe I can send him an actual scenario recreated in a PDF or some other file,
Yeah.
explaining how this would happen.
Good. And the nice thing is that with diagnostics, once you've made the fix, you can actually measure that fix and how it was fixed at the end. So that's a good thing. Good.
Yep.
Next question. What customization facilities does diagnostics offer for custom reports we will develop in the future?
See, if you are developing a custom report, there are two ways. One is you can go directly to, again, I'm going to share my screen. Just give me 1 minute. I'm going to a beautiful thing that we have, which is called the customer portal. So this is our customer portal. So here we have lots of information regarding diagnostics. It also has a custom module here. So this custom modules are modules which are either built by our own team, or it was built by our client, and then we asked whether we can share it. They said yes. So we have those information here. So you can see there are modules for short transaction server. We have modules for job manager, design manager. This is the one that I showcased as part of the webinar. And there is a lot more. So what you need to do is, if the custom module that you are looking for is right here, just go here, download this, add it to the code. It's like a 5-minute process, and the diagnostics will start tracking this particular function. You can also, because we are already here, you can also go to this link right here, and you can find the webinars and the videos that me, John, and rest of the team did over the years. So it has webinars on business processes. It has for data loss. We did one exclusively for data loss and how diagnostics can help. You can find all those webinars right here. So custom modules are available. Just go to this particular portal and you can find it. If not, if you want to do it on your own, you can still do it. It doesn't take much of a time. Hardly takes 1 day for someone who is new to diagnostics, maybe a day or so. in order to configure a custom module and start tracking any function that you want.
So probably an ideal time to mention that when you move forward with diagnostics, we actually have a 3-day training session, and that's where you will learn how you can develop your own reports through a web interface, yeah, and generate PDFs. Good. So we have another question. We already use Splunk across all systems in our company. Can we onboard diagnostics onto our existing Splunk platform?
Okay, I think yes, absolutely you can. Splunk is an integrated into diagnostic solution, so you don't need to buy a Splunk license separately, even if you don't have it. But if you already have Splunk, you simply need to deploy the diagnostics interface on top of your current Splunk product. That's as simple as that.
Good. Okay, here we go. Splunk. And are there any more questions? I don't see any more questions at the moment. Do you have anyone else have any more questions?
Nice. Okay. Let's see here. Guys, if you have any follow-up question in case I have not, my answer was missing something, do let me know in the comments. Do let me know on the chat. I would try to explain it better. Right. So we have, oh, we do have one. You showed the replay user clicks that the user encountered an error. Can I see more details about that error? Of course you can. Let me take you. Okay. Of course you can. You have something. We have something called the replay user click. There is a severity. We have a dashboard built specifically for tracebacks. So any traceback that you want to analyze, just go here and you just click on that traceback and you can start to do your analysis. Very, very. So anything, essentially, it's anything that happens inside small world, we can track. It can be a traceback, it can be a memory leak, it can be indexing, just about anything. I see that my connection is acting up. So I'll send you, okay, we have the name. Okay. So I will send you that details personally. We have your email ID. We will send it out to anyone who is interested in that question.
Yeah. That also includes that we can track GSS. Correct,
Yes.
Swami?
Yes, yes. That's how we do the web services. A very crucial part of almost all the clients that we deal with, it's GSS. They need to understand which of their integrations are taking a lot of time. Once they do that, then they use the hierarchy inspector to understand where exactly the problem is.
Good. Any other questions? So as a company, Swami, how much time did we spend in the development of diagnostics?
Wow. Let me think. It was till date, it's about 7 years. 7 years of myself, 7 years of John, 7 years of Kuhn. A lot of people working on this. We have been working on this for 7 years now. The version 1 we released, I think 6 and 5.5, 6 years ago. And from there on out, we have been making so many changes to this. So the whole objective of continuously improving the product was to make sure that it's very, very easy to use. You don't need to have a technical expertise. You don't need to have all that programming language or querying language understanding in order to mine the information that you want. It should be available at a click of a button. So that was the objective, and we still pursue it. We still strive to make diagnostics as simple as we can. About 7 years of a lot of people putting efforts into this.
So there's another question, but I'm gonna ask you a question in between. So there's been some question with respect to the logging mechanism of Elastic versus what Diagnostics does. And I thought that this would be a good time to ask that question specifically because of what you've just mentioned. You think you can delve into that a little bit for me?
I delve to it quite deep. Anyway, so Elasticsearch, or for that matter, any other framework versus the Diagnostics, what is the difference? So first thing is, when we look at Elasticsearch, Elastic I'm going to take that as an example. It's essentially a framework. So what it does is it is kind of gives the developers an opportunity to log in a standardized way. It's not much different from getting logs in the text file. It, come to think of it, is just moving your text file from your desktop, moving on to a web interface. So once it gets there, then you need to have the querying languages understanding. You need to type in your queries. You need to start mining that information. It's not in a standardized way, but when you look at Diagnostics data, everything is standardized. For every event, you have the username. For every event, you have the time, the machine from which this particular event was triggered. All these we capture data in a standardized format. And the reason why we do that is to make it easier for the end users to get to the information that they want. So this is the first thing. And second thing is, with Elasticsearch, you do not have the predefined dashboards. We have loads and loads of dashboards which have loads and loads of charts. Everything is just a click away. This functionality is not available in Elasticsearch. You will have to configure everything from the scratch, which involves significant amount of time. Even then, you won't get to something like Diagnostics. What else? See, essentially comparing Diagnostics with Elasticsearch is like comparing apples and oranges, because it's not a fair comparison. We at Real World, we created, we put in a lot of time to create a fully featured solution, whereas when you look at other frameworks, these are your starting point. This is where we started, and we are all the way somewhere here, whereas Elasticsearch is still here, and then you have to build your way to Diagnostics level. That's essentially the difference.
Yeah, more than 7 years. Good. How much data can I gather with Diagnostics, and how do I manage that?
Again, it's basically depends on the user. There is essentially no limit on the number of data that you can gather. The way it works is, to give you an idea, it is about 10 MB of data, 10 MB of data per day per user. And it depends on how many users you have. So all you need to do is give it a storage space, say for example 500 GB, 550 GB, whatever you want. And as soon as it hits that particular limits, it goes to the last one, the first event, and it starts to rewrite it in order to create space for the new ones. So just one-time configuration, and once that is done, you don't have to worry about it. It just takes care of its own.
Yeah. So very cyclical.
Yep.
Good. No more questions. Then I think what we're going to do is we're just going to run off to the conclusion right now. So let me share my screen again. So we were just finished the question and answer session. I want to thank everyone that submitted some questions. Just a quick conclusion for everyone. So try it. We offer a trial period for 3 months, or it can be a little bit longer. You get to define 3 areas of concern to resolve. You get 3 days of training, so you actually get the training as part of the trial, and you receive an analysis with outcomes, meaning that for those 3 items, we say, okay, you might have to put an index here, you might have to fix this problem, and so forth. So as part of our offer, the first customer deciding to move forward, we will resolve the first issue for free. So that could be, for example, a process that takes 1 or 2 days. It could be a process that takes 5 days. Regardless, we are including it in part of that trial. There are other options if you decide to move forward right away with moving with diagnostics. Managed services, purchasing, and leasing are the mechanisms that are available. Good. So from a professional services perspective, we do have a lot of services to help you with diagnostics if they're needed. The first thing is that we can provide a health check. There's a lot of companies out there that have done health checks. This is going to give you data-based information on that health check. And of course, in that health check realm, you can do a baseline definition. So if you do an initial evaluation as to how your system is performing, and we monitor it, that is your starting point. And then based on the changes that you make, you can see how things begin to evolve for the better for your small world environment. In a managed services environment, we do have a cloud solution for diagnostics. So we're much more involved with the customer in providing regular reports and alerting, so we can see, for example, what Swami was mentioning about memory leaks. Well, you want to be alerted very, very quickly when those things start to occur. Customized services. So one of the questions was, can we get into the customizations? Most certainly, we get very granular in the information. We look at business processes. So if you have data corruption issues that could be taking place, we can find those problems for you. We have support services, training I've already mentioned, and of course, after analysis services. In other words, if we find an index or we find a method that's not working properly, we can help you fix those issues. Good. So at the presentation that I gave in Bellevue at the GE conference, I talked about speed, scale, and relevance. To some degree, much of that was discussed today as well, improving the overall performance. It's very scalable in getting all the data so that you can analyze that information so that all that data to give you the information that you need. And it's relevant. As Swami said, anybody and everyone can use that information and improve their situation. Good. So a quick reminder, Swami had brought it up. We have the portal in diagnosticsincontrol.com. So if you go to the diagnosticsincontrol.com website, on the bottom left-hand side, there's a portal. You can go to the portal. You can see all the different videos and webinars that we've had, as well as some of the custom modules that have been made. And just for everyone's information, if you make a custom module that you wish to share with other customers, with other utilities and telcos, by all means, please submit them. We will review them. We'll make sure that they're okay, and then we will put them onto the website and accredit them to the appropriate organization or people. So with that, if you've had any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us at info@diagnosticsincontrol.com. And with this, we come to the end of the diagnostics webinar. Thank you very much for joining. Look forward to your questions and to following up with you. Thank you. Bye-bye.